interpreters. And this is an important part of the Latino culture. Don't rely on family members, because first of all, if they are from a different gender, like I said earlier, if it's something that is very intimate, like has to do with the reproductive system, or has to do with birth, or any female or male symptoms, they will be shy to say it because they're modest in front of that person. So they might withhold actually information from them. So if you're getting an interpreter, always ask them. It's preferable that if it's the same gender as the patient. And they have to be professional interpreters. Like I said earlier, don't get a janitor because he's the only one speaking Spanish there. And don't get people from the waiting room. There was a case study where a mother took her child that was 3 years old in an emergency room because she had a broken collarbone and she wanted to have X-ray. And when she spoke very little English, so they didn't know what to do with her, and there was someone that spoke barely some Spanish on the staff that night. And they asked her what happened, so she said, "Se pegó." And for "se pegó," in a meaning, it says that she was struck. And right away, she presented another report from another emergency room that was 2 months ago with the same fracture. So right away, they assumed that there was abuse. And they reported them to social services, and they actually came and they made her sign a form to release her children. She didn't even know what she was signing. So they took her children away. And then when they got an interpreter that spoke Spanish, because there are a lot of dialects in Spanish, by the way, not only one dialect. So when they brought an interpreter that knew the language, she understood that "se pegó," it meant she felt from her tricycle. So she felt on her the same fracture that she had before, and that's why she came back. It was already weak, so she came back with the same complaint. They had to contact their primary physician, and they had to know, to make sure that there is no abuse, and after 48 hours, that actually returned the children. So it can really cause serious problems if you don't have the proper translator. Interpreter is not the only translators in the room. There is also another case where there was a woman that went to a doctor, and she had her test came as HIV positive, and the doctor told her that she was positive for HIV. And in certain dialects, positiva means it's good. So when she heard positive, she thought that everything is good with her. So she went in her merry way, lived her life, got married, and got pregnant, and gave birth to a boy that later on had HIV. Just because she was not informed properly of whatever happened to her test. And that's why it's hugely, hugely important to have an interpreter in the room, because you can never know one word, how it's going to make a difference. Use trained interpreters. When you ask someone about their partner, always use the word partner or significant other, and not spouse, to avoid all the stigma of sexual orientation. If you use terms that are professional to you, try to avoid them when you're speaking to a patient or to someone that comes to see you. Because these words or these expressions make total sense to you. But they don't necessarily make sense to them, and they do not really understand them. So it's important to use simple terms of English. Don't raise your voice while talking to them, because it can actually insult them. When you have an interpreter in the room, make sure that your position is like a triangle, and that you have eye contact with both. Your main focus, the importance of your eye contact should be with your patient, not with the interpreter. So the interpreter should be there. You have to keep focused on your patient when talking. The interpreter is to interpret every single word you say as it is, not adding or omitting anything. Even if they feel that there is something that is offensive, they actually have to tell you that I believe that this is offensive, what do you want to say? Because you might say something not knowing it could be offensive. The interpreter, that's why they have to be professionally trained. Their interpreter will let you know if this could be offensive or not. Interpreters They have to do the translation or interpret whatever it is with non-judgmental attitude, and to do all the translation in total contact. Ideally, they should be from the same gender as your patient. Like I said, do not use people in the waiting room, do not use their children unless it's really the only solution that you have in hand. Because when you have that children, it totally does the imbalance of that chemistry between the parents and their children. And the children becomes in a higher power, on a higher authority level, and that disturbs the whole balance between the parents and the children. When you have written materials that is bilingual, especially that has pictures, it's always better to use this bilingual material. You might hear, oh, I can't see, I don't have my glasses on. It might be their way of getting out. They might not be able to read even Spanish. So you have to put that in consideration. They're not going to tell you, oh, I can't read. They will tell you, oh, I can't see because I don't have my glasses. Because again, it's their pride and their honor, so they will not let you know that they're not reading Spanish. So they will tell you that we can't see it. Like I said, literacy is, they can't see well, they might be able not to read either English or Spanish. Yes, sir.
Another thing I've noticed is that I've given someone a blank form, and they'll give it right back to me blank. And I'll ask them, do you have a question on that? And then they'll say, well, I don't know what this is. That's another way of knowing that they can't read.
Yes, exactly. They will come up with an excuse. As healthcare provider, if we are sensitive a little bit, we will get it. Yeah. That, you know what, like, okay, they can't read it and that's why they can't. Even if the form is in Spanish, they might not even be able to read Spanish or English. So maybe we can help them, you know, either interpreter or like go one by one and fill the forms for that. And like Anna said, they're very, especially when it comes to technology and computer and machines and something that is not human and something that's not personal, they will not deal with it. You know, and if you say, oh, we left you a message at home, you either catch them and talk to them. If you leave messages, they might not even hear it. So this is something that we need to think about.